So if you're familiar with me or familiar with the channel, you may have seen a video that I made a few weeks ago talking about Ariel Helwani leaving ESPN. And one of the points that I raised in that video is how interested I am to see how ESPN go about filling the void that Ariel Helwani has now left behind. Since his departure, we've had a major event in the shape of Dustin Poirier against Conor McGregor, and we've also had a number of your standard UFC fight night type shows. And I have to say, the content and the coverage of the sport that ESPN are currently producing is a shambles. It's absolutely horrible, if I'm honest with you. So let's look at the big event to start with, Dustin Poirier against Conor McGregor. So part of the broadcast team for that fight was Max Kellerman, Stephen A. Smith and Teddy Atlas. And those guys are guys who the area of, actually no, I don't even know what Stephen A. Smith's background is or what his area of expertise is, because even when I hear him talk about boxing, I don't quite understand why he's there talking about a sport that he doesn't seem to know a hell of a lot about, if I'm honest with you. But the other two, Max Kellerman and Teddy Atlas, they're both boxing guys, right? That's their bread and butter, that's their background. And I was a bit disappointed to see these guys part of the coverage of that show, because it just feels like that they just shoehorned these personalities into an event that they had no business covering, if I'm honest with you. Actually, no, let me take that back, because Teddy Atlas is a guy whose opinion I value very highly. And I watch his podcast on a weekly basis, and you know he's getting more and more heavily involved in the analysis of mixed martial arts. And to be fair, some of the things that he says, they make me think. You know, he makes me think in terms of some of the opinions that he shares when he's looking at fights and fighters. And one of the things that I think he's really good at is articulating the psychology of a fighter pre, post and during a fight. And I felt like he did a good job of that when he was discussing the Dustin Poirier Conor McGregor fight. Where I feel like ESPN missed actually with Teddy Atlas is I saw a segment that he did with Max Kellerman. Oh shit, I'm gonna get a ticket, I'm in a box junction. But yeah, I saw a segment that he did with Max Kellerman. And I felt like that segment was missing something, because you had two guys that are effectively boxing guys trying to break down and analyze the mixed fight. And I felt like that was missing an MMA voice, basically. So I mean, that's kind of, I kind of let that slide, because I felt like, all right, well, look, it's a Conor McGregor event. They're probably trying to appeal to a wider audience, and these are faces that a wider audience is probably familiar with, so fine, let it be. Actually, one other thing, during the fight week for Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier, I saw a segment with Mike Coppinger as well, where he was sat down with Mark Raimondi and I think it was Megan Olivier, I can't remember now, I'm 99% sure it was Megan Olivier, and they were breaking down the card. And you know, like, if you want to see what someone looks like when they're way out of their depths, watch that little segment that they produced with Mike Coppinger trying to tell us his opinions about mixed martial arts. Because Mike Coppinger is, again, a guy that is a boxing journalist, and I saw actually his tweet saying, I'm now going to, he left The Athletic and he's joining ESPN, and he'll be covering both boxing and MMA. Or actually, I don't even think he said MMA, I think he said UFC. And I thought to myself, here we go again. Like, I mean, it's not even his fault. Like, it's not his fault that he's been given this job, because he's probably getting paid well for it, so why would you say no? But isn't he embarrassed? Like, aren't you embarrassed getting up there talking about something, trying to talk about a sport with authority, when deep down you know you don't know diddly squat? Because the way he was talking about the Wonderboy Thompson Gilbert Burns fight, and even his opinions about the Dustin Poirier against Conor McGregor fight, it like, you can't be sat at that desk when you don't know enough about the sport. Do you know what I mean? But anyway, I let all of that. I just thought, all right, fine. Look, it's the Conor McGregor fight week. They're trying to be different, right? But since then, what we've seen on YouTube, I've seen a couple of different things that ESPN are doing, and one of them's this new show that DC does with some guy whose name I can't remember. I tried to watch that show. I watched it for about 15 minutes and I turned it off, and I've never been back since. And that's no disrespect to either of the guys. I'm a fan of DC, and you know, I don't know this other guy enough to have an opinion about him. But like, I suppose the premise or the thought process behind that show is just to have a fan and DC sit down and talk fights, and it's supposed to be a light-hearted show. And you know, this guy's a bit of a face because he's an ex-pro footballer or basketball player or whatever he is. But to sit in that seat, in my opinion, you need to be a very knowledgeable fan, which will allow you to express opinions about the sport without being concerned for the repercussions from the powers that be, because you can get away with it by saying, oh, I'm just a fan, I don't know. But when you don't really know a lot, which is what came across in the 15-20 minutes that I watched, it almost becomes like this conversation that I suppose if you're watching this and you're an MMA fan, you might have had with just a friend that doesn't follow the sport at all, when you have to kind of really break down things into little baby chunks for them to understand. And that's what I felt like DC was having to do with this geezer. But even worse than that is these new clips that I've seen on YouTube where it's Max Kellerman on MMA. And like, again, Max Kellerman can't speak with a lot of authority about the sport because he just doesn't know enough. And I've seen him in a couple of clips sat there with Chael Sonnen talking fights, and Max Kellerman's opinion, for me, I'm sorry, but it just doesn't hold any weight, because you can see as clear as day he doesn't necessarily know what he's talking about. And every single clip that I've seen with him involved in it, all he wants to do is talk about Conor McGregor. And I just don't understand. Like, I saw a clip where they was talking about Islam Makhachev. Chael Sonnen and Max Kellerman were discussing Islam Makhachev. And literally, I don't know how, but he managed to find a way to pivot to Conor McGregor during that conversation. It's jarring, man. It's really annoying. And another thing that I don't understand about these American analysts, and a lot of American people watch this, and I interact with a lot of you guys, like, why do American presenters, or whatever you call them, reporters, feel like shouting helps them get their point across? Like, that don't even make, like, why do they just shout all the time? Which is ironic because I'm shouting now, but it's annoying. Like, just talk normally. You don't have to shout. Why are you shouting? Especially when you're shouting and you're talking crap. That's like a double whammy. Like, it don't make sense to me. Like, I don't know the business behind ESPN's kind of what they're paying Top Rank for boxing content and what they're paying the UFC for the MMA content that the UFC produce. But what I do know is the UFC is a lot more consistent in terms of the shows that they put on in comparison to Top Rank. And recently they've been obviously dragging in a lot more pay-per-view buys than Top Rank are able to produce. So I'm assuming that ESPN pay the UFC a hell of a lot more money than they pay Top Rank. But the kicker here is the lack of effort and thought process in trying to hire the right people for these jobs that they obviously have, because they're currently giving them to boxing guys. It's a bit, you know what it is? It's a spit in the face of us, the MMA fans. I mean, I know that sounds a bit strong, but like, we're fans of a sport that is obviously doing a really good job for the broadcaster, ESPN, but they're not returning the love that the fans are showing in terms of buying the pay-per-views and watching the shows by giving us content that those events deserve. Do you know what I mean? By putting the right people in the right places to produce content that is of value, because what they're doing at the moment isn't of value. I'm sorry, man. Like, it's annoying. It's annoying as a fan, because we deserve better, man. It's just a lackluster effort on their part at the moment, and it needs to change, and it needs to change quickly, because you can't just keep putting boxing guys in these kind of positions and expect us to just sit here and just take it in. Because when we know more than the people that are trying to tell us what happened on fight night, there's a problem. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I've been thinking about this for a couple of weeks, so I thought I'd share my thoughts and see what you guys think, see what people out there, have you noticed this? Is this as annoying to you as it is to me, just going under a tunnel? Oh, actually the lighting's better in the tunnel. Riddle me that. Riddle me that. But yeah, so I just thought I'd just share these opinions and hopefully I'll get some feedback and see what you guys think in terms of what I've just said. On a brighter note, I haven't done a car video in absolute ages. Might be over a year. So firstly, hopefully the sound's good, because I've got the air conditioning on, because the sun is shining here in London town at the moment. Don't know how I managed to not say moment correctly there. And also, because I'm in a different car now, the angle isn't very flattering. It's like a low angle. So if you're thinking to yourself, I bet he's sucking his stomach in, you'd be 100% right, because that's what I'm doing now, trying to not expose the belly. But yeah, put your comments below. If you've enjoyed the video, hit the like button, share this with a friend. Again, if you've enjoyed it, or even if you haven't enjoyed it, why don't you annoy your friend as much as ESPN have annoyed me by sharing this video if you haven't enjoyed it with a friend, just to annoy them. But anyway, I'm going to stop talking utter rubbish and I'm going to let my stomach out. I'll catch you guys next time.